of Earthrealm to another Mortal Kombat mobile video. Shall we begin?
Hi guys, today I want to talk a little bit about the talent tree, and of course I know that everybody has his personal preferences, so I'm just going to show you my take on it. We're starting with the offense section. I chose the Mantis stance because Tiger stance with 2% opponent toughness ignored wasn't that appealing to me, and neither was the Lion stance with 1% basic attack damage boost. The Mantis stance made the most sense with blocked attacks do 2% more damage. But to be honest, I just chose them because I needed to pick one to get to the next area. Increasing the chance for combiners is useful if you're playing feats of strength based. Opportunist seems to be only really useful to me if you're playing many Scorpion and Sub-Zero characters. I chose Gambler because this way minigames have an extra damage boost and it works for all characters and not just specific ones. And I found this that useful that I mastered it. And once again I had to choose one perk to get to the next area, so I was going with the special 2 damage instead of special 1 or X-ray damage, because I'm mainly using special 2s, but that's really up to your personal taste. In the next section I chose bleed damage over poison or fire damage, just because I like bleed teams a lot. But of course, if you're using Blaze's Life Force constantly at match begin, then fire damage might be the best choice to go for. For the next section I also just added one little point, and here I absolutely didn't really care what I take, because I never gave much about critical hit chance boost or critical damage boost. Since I found gaining power a little more interesting, I went with Shirai Ryu teachings here. In the next section I also just added one point, and here is some interesting stuff, even though the Deathmark technique is not one of them, because I really don't like this yellow smiley above the heads of my opponents. Also, unblockable attack damage boost was not really that appealing to me, but applying damage to all targets or to the entire opponent team upon combo enders, that was good enough for me. And now we're getting to the good stuff. You can choose to have either free special 1s or free special 2s, and I went with free special 2s, and it actually really makes sense because sometimes you really have like 4 special 2s in a row just for free. So this perk is pure gold, but of course 3 special 1s is a cool thing as well. Now moving on to the defense section, and my defense section doesn't look that much different either. I never cared about health boost, and I didn't really care for recovery boost at all, so I rather went with taking a little bit less basic damage with the Rhino stance. Now in the next section there is a really interesting one. Warlock's Belts is of course not one of them. Life Drain, regen boost, don't care at all. And usually I would go for the Reaver's Armor to amplify the Rhino stance by taking less basic damage in Faction Wars, but Defender's Bulwark with already 55% chance to reflect damage while stunned, that's a very easy deal for me. And yet again, Oni's Blood would be interesting. Block basic attacks deal 10% less, while Centaurian Defense would give me 4% chance to reflect 100% of unblockable attacks, but the Shokan Dominance guarantees me a 12% less damage income from special attacks, and that works for all characters, so that made more sense to me. A 4% shield break resistance didn't make any sense to me. Ghost Armor, yeah, you gain more power when critical hits hit you, but if your power drains, the opponent drains 40% less, of course, I'm going with that. Fully mastered. Rinsing DOTs on special attack use sounds good. Definitely nothing against it. Reducing the damage over time is also not a bad thing, especially because it's already reducing 30%. But my choice was definitely going with Red Dragon training, because some stun and power drain resistance is always useful. And now we're getting to one of the really important sections. Nightwolf's Chain Lightning is okay. This way you can kind of disable X-ray teams. For the Spirit of Vengeance to work, your player would have to die to apply that thing, and we actually want to avoid dying. And since we have the Revenant shield, of course, almost everybody is going with Revenant. Fully maxed out, mastered, of course. Because this way you can survive with your last breath. And then this one is usually the one I always go for, because you get a bar of power and unblockable attacks as soon as your last player is on the field, which means Special 2, X-ray, everything is in. But there is a bug, so I went for the Bone Shield instead right now. But maybe I would change that back as soon as that bug is eliminated. And resetting your entire talent tree only costs you 12 souls, so that's quite cheap. And of course, since we only have a few points, there was not that much that I could go for in the support area. The power generation boost, not bad, but way too less percentage. Shield break, never cared for that. This one is really interesting, 20% resistance to all the buffs, which means bleed, fire, poison, stun, slow. And if you're combining it with a maxed out Earth Elemental face mask, you're already at 50%. For teamwork, the percentage would be way too low for my personal taste. And as I was going with it, I went for Spec Ops Tactics, 4% increased power generation on tag-in. Was kind of okay. Iron Fists, unblockable attacks, generate 1% more power, never cared for it. Now here in this section, it's really most up to your personal taste. Are you someone who uses mainly fire teams, or poison teams, or bleed teams? Then you can have your personal pick here. I never cared really about any of those. So moving on, Meditation is pretty good, because the special attack 1 costs less power. And it was my go-to because like 750 points of toughness reduced critical damage by 0.2%. That's nothing. And damage boost against resurrected enemies, how many times does that happen? So cheaper special ones is the best choice here. Weak point attacks, amazing perk if you're using power drainers. Having the chance to snare people in the match is definitely a good one if you want to focus on the support area. Special attack 2 costs less power, of course you could do that as well. But I think weak point attacks is definitely the best way to go here. And then we have the Stranglehold, which would boost basic attacks against opponents suffering from DOTs. Not really that interesting. And refund of power for special and X-rays, not really. Lightning Blow better, because this way you can disable special attacks of your opponent for a few seconds, which can make or break a match. It's simple as that. Now here we have another 2 very useful ones. You have the chance to reflect 100% of the attack from special ones, or you go with the other perk and you have the chance to reflect special 2s. Even though the percentage is a little low, but if you're really up for reflecting stuff, it's definitely a good choice. Special 1 or special 2, that's up to you. I would go for special 1s, but as I said, mainly my main interest will be if I go back to Last Stand of the Shaolin once the bug is erased, because it's simply such a useful and amazing perk to use. And it's a little unfortunate that we only have like 101 or 102 points at all in total to use for the entire talent tree. But yeah, that was basically my setup. I hope this helps some of you if you don't have any idea what to choose from. Casey, over and out for today.
Thank you for watching Lord Realm. If you enjoyed the slaughter and the bloodshed, you can support the channel by clicking on the like button. You can also click on one of the 2 videos presented by Baraka here. Also make sure that you are subscribed and click the bell notification icon to be notified upon new uploads. You all know the drill. Wound not kill, have a good one, and see you next time.